This lecture is called The Growth of Presidential Power. It's a replacement of a previous one, which I guess I turned the sound down on. I apologize for that. Um, the original concept of the founders was that the Congress, not the executive branch, was to be the dominant power. And, in the first century and 2 or 3 decades, that definitely was the exactly how it all played out, with the exception of maybe Jackson, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Teddy, and Wilson before the Great Depression. And some presidents, especially the last three Republican presidents before the Great Depression set in, Harding, Coolidge, and then Hoover, um, that was the way they looked at the position, that Congress was to take the initiative, and they were to sit back and let Congress run things. Modern presidents, though, have changed that dynamic, and that includes LBJ, Nixon, Reagan, Bush. They've tried to assume more control, and they have taken greater leadership by taking the initiative themselves. The power of the office has grown considerably throughout most of the 20th century, especially since 1933. Now, the non-constitutional sources of power are, are, are interesting and varied. First, the president's office is represented by one man, and everyone on his or in his administration is supposed to speak with one voice, which is why they all get talking points. So when you look at the Sunday talk shows, they're all pretty much saying the same thing because they got their points, and they try not to deviate from it. Meanwhile, Congress is talking with 535 different voices. Despite the best efforts of the leadership of both parties to have a consistent line of thought, it's much more difficult. Secondly, presidential character and personality uh, can create quite a or have quite an impact. Certainly, FDR, his fireside chats, his folksiness, um, LBJ um, taking a page from that book in essence, the the charisma of Kennedy, the regalness of Reagan, all of those all of those strong personalities can have quite an impact on the presidency. Now, what has also helped the presidential office grow in power is the growing complexity of society. With a highly industrialized and technologically advanced society, people have demanded that the federal government play a larger role in areas of public concern. So, for instance, pollution, labor issues, um, air travel safety, just to name a few, all get the attention of the public, and the public has raised expectations that when they fly, when they eat or drink, that the products they use are safe for them to use. And consequently, the executive branch has grown to meet those rising public expectations and demands. Now, Congress compounds all of this movement of power from the legislative branch to the executive branch, by doing poorly the things that have been assigned to it in the original Constitution. First and foremost, broadly worded legislation. It is probably the bane of their existence, and the fact that they've opted to do this. It simply lets the executive branch fill in the holes, and they do it quite often, and it's not good for both the legislative branch or the executive branch to do that. Secondly, in a crisis, Congress bows to presidential demands um, for expanded power. And that's true especially of economic crises or a foreign crises, like in 1991 with Operation Desert Storm, or certainly 2001 with 9/11. And then third, Congress often vows to the president if the president can claim that he or she has a mandate. Well, presidents haven't gotten a mandate since Reagan in 1984. Mandates usually come in at about 55%. That means a considerable number of Americans believe in your policies. 51%, 52% is not a mandate. And certainly Clinton's 43% in 1992 was not a mandate for the type of change. So Congress often vows to the president in that, and presidents many times can get away with new programs. So for instance, in 1981, Reagan did two things. He focused on tax cuts and then higher defense spending. And Congress acquiesced to those things that Reagan wanted. Now, the mass media has also helped the president gain power. The electronic throne is used by the president to keep him or her in the public eye. TV is a hugely manipulative, but also importantly influential medium, because that's where most people get their news, even though that the internet is now rising in that area. But special addresses, press conferences, the Saturday morning radio or video feed that the president puts out, chats, photo ops, sound bites, etc. All of those give the president an enormous advantage over the 535 disparate voices that Congress has. Then, and I think this is so true, the emergence of the U.S. as the great superpower after World War II, even though we may be a little on the wane, which is logical as to what happens to great powers over time as other powers get it together, like China, and begin to challenge the hegemony of the United States. But World War II, and then the Cold War, and then the War on Terror, it's been almost a virtual nonstop crisis situation since 1945. So in order to fight those battles, in essence, the president has assumed great powers to deal with these foreign crises. And Congress has let them do so, with very few times reining the presidency in. So it's a logical step. It's easier for one person to deal with a foreign crisis than 435 voices in the House and 100 voices in the Senate. And people expect us to coalesce around one effective leader. Now, when new presidents get into office, there's three rules of thumb to maximize presidential power and effectiveness. One, move it or lose it. We're not talking about a weight loss program. We're talking more in that presidents have to move fast. They have what's known as a honeymoon period, though I have to say neither Clinton nor Bush, 43, really got a holiday period. Bush actually did get one, but it was after 9/11 when he pretty much could get anything passed through a rattled Congress. So presidents should get things done early in their terms when their popularity is at its highest. So for instance, Reagan's tax cuts in 1981 were passed when though people had doubts about them, his popularity was of such that people went along, or the Congress went along. So popularity, and what happens, of course, is that popularity declines over time. Again, that's logically what happens. So presidents have to do it early in their term. Then secondly, avoid the details. Don't try to do too much. Concentrate on a few top priorities. For instance, Reagan focusing on two things, tax cuts and higher defense spending in 1981. Look at the opposite. Clinton trying to do far too many things, Hillary Care, energy, all those other things between 1992 and 1994, and essentially getting not a lot done. Then the third thing is cabinets don't get much done. People do. The people that the president relies on are the people who live and work in the immediate White House. And that staff is focused on accomplishing tasks that the president wants, and they don't have divided loyalties. Cabinet secretaries, on the other hand, do have divided loyalties and are much less effective in getting what the president wants done. Now, in our next video, which is roles of the president, we'll discuss the constitutional and non-constitutional roles that the president exercises when he or she is in office.